Thanks, Paris. The Food and Drug Administration plans to ban menthol cigarettes and flavored cigars. Tobacco companies have long marketed menthol products to Black Americans who use them at a significantly higher rate, according to the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention, than other groups. The CEO of the NAACP calls the likely ban long overdue, but some are concerned it could lead to the further criminalization of communities of color. Joining us to discuss the proposed ban are Christina Hamilton. She's Director of Advocacy at the American Lung Association in Illinois and Iowa, and Dr. Clyde Yancey, Vice Dean of Diversity and Inclusion at Northwestern University and Chief of Cardiology in the Department of Medicine. And thank you both for joining us. Christina Hamilton, let me begin with you. First of all, basic primer. What exactly is a menthol cigarette? How is it different from a cigarette that doesn't have menthol?
Sure. So menthol is a chemical naturally found in peppermint and other mint plants, and it can also be made in a lab. So it was first added to tobacco products in the 1920s and 1930s, and it is known to reduce the harshness and the irritation from tobacco and nicotine. Under the 2009 Smoking Prevention and Tobacco Control Act that gave the FDA authority over tobacco products, menthol is the only flavoring that is allowed in cigarettes as a characterizing flavor because of the amount of menthol that's in those types of cigarettes. But almost all cigarettes contain at least some menthol in them.
Well, as you probably know, according to the FDA, roughly 85% of Black tobacco-using adults smoke menthol cigarettes. That's compared to about 48% of Hispanic or Latino adults and roughly 30% of white adults. Dr. Yancey, why is the rate so high among African Americans?
It's fairly clear that there's been disproportionate marketing of mentholated products, tobacco products, and as a result, there's disproportionate use. Unfortunately, because the taste has been obliterated with menthol, the addiction potential of tobacco is extraordinary. And those smokers end up being lifelong smokers and then experience the disproportionality of tobacco-related diseases.
Christina Hamilton, how would you describe just how aggressive tobacco companies have been marketing menthol products to African Americans?
The predatory marketing practices of the biggest tobacco companies dates back to the 1960s. There's a 1998 U.S. Surgeon General's report that highlights the intentional, very targeted marketing to portray Black people in a positive light. They're radiant and poised, and they look happy, and they're using these products. And they did this at a time when the pervasive images in the media of Black people were negative. And these practices, they were rampant throughout the Black community and really became effective in appealing to Black people and getting them hooked on these very harmful products.
Dr. Yancey, what would be the impact if this proposal were, in fact, to become policy? What impact would it have on African American communities?
Well, think about the impact that smoking in the African American communities has right now. At least 40 to 50,000 excess deaths per year in the community attributable to tobacco. If we can reverse any of that, it would be extraordinary. But recognize this is just one step towards reducing the burden of tobacco in those communities and just one step towards transitioning to heart healthier lifestyles. But the step is necessary.
Well, as you probably know, there is some concern about how a ban might impact Black and brown communities. Let's listen to Nusra Choudhury at the ACLU, Illinois.
It will likely lead to criminal penalties, both under federal law and under state and local law. And that's because when the FDA bans menthol cigarettes, every state in the country, including Illinois, has laws that criminalize the unlicensed sale of tobacco products. And that would mean that there would be an underground market of menthol cigarettes. And because there are so many people who use these products who are people of color, that leaves them open to police stops and encounters that can escalate and cause harm.
She went on to note that Eric Gardner, as you recall, was killed by police after a traffic stop for selling loose cigarettes. How about it? Is there a concern, Christina Hamilton, that number one, there'd be an underground market for menthol cigarettes, and number two, that African American and Latino individuals would be targeted by law enforcement?
The FDA's announcement is targeted at the tobacco industry. It does not penalize or criminalize the behavior of individuals. This is about stopping the commercial manufacturing, distribution, and selling of a tobacco product. We agree that criminal penalties for addicted smokers would be harmful. The FDA cannot and will not enforce against an individual consumer for possessing or using menthol cigarettes. This is about saving Black lives, not criminalizing them. And it's also disappointing that organizations who currently or previously have taken tobacco industry money have been outspoken in their opposition of this life-saving proposal.
Dr. Yancey, some people look at menthol cigarettes and say that they're an easy gateway. There's something inherent about them that makes them more addictive, more attractive to young people, for example. What are your thoughts on that?
Exactly. I think anything that allows the access to have a lesser barrier really does promote chronic use. We already know from the science that it only takes 2 weeks of exposure to a tobacco product in a young adult or a child to develop at least a dependency, if not an addiction. 2 weeks. And so this really is a sinister campaign that has to be halted because it's really leading to lifelong behaviors that are just simply not healthy.
Christina Hamilton, last question for you. What comes next? Do you think this ban will actually happen?
The American Lung Association and our partners are certainly going to be urging the FDA to quickly propose their rule on menthol cigarettes and flavored cigars. The FDA has said that in up to 12 months, they will release their proposed rule, and we urge them to do that faster. From there will be about a 90-day comment period. And then after that, the FDA will take some time to review all of those comments. And then under the 2009 Tobacco Control Act, there would be an effective date that would be 1 year out. So this will be a process, but our organizations, our volunteers, we will be certainly making our voices heard to the FDA that this is a good policy and that they should move forward.
As will the American Heart Association.
Christina Hamilton, Dr. Clyde Yancey, thank you both. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.